Hello Internet, it's time for another Wednesday serial. This time I have a big pile, mostly because it's a big week for me, and I got half the comics I was supposed to get last week, so I'm just gonna run through. First up was AVX Round 6, and this was actually really awesome. I'm really on board now. Kind of. So, the main thing is as you've probably heard, there's the Phoenix 5, but this really just focuses on the idea of Scott having the Phoenix powers, Scott being a Cyclops, and being the leader of the whole movement. And it's interesting to see him playing this idea, and the idea is really clear where they're going. They're trying to set up Earth as a more utopian place, and they meet a lot of resistance. Now, where it comes from right now, the resistance feels really unwarranted. They haven't really made any good points why the Avengers should be going against the X-Men at this point, but you can kind of see where the Avengers are coming from. But you can really see it's that utopian idea, but it comes at a cost that isn't worth it, so the Avengers are going to fight back for free will or whatever they make it out to be. That's clearly where it's going. But the way they're setting it up and the way they're playing the character motivations are actually really interesting. But it's really annoying at the same time because you see them setting up the X-Men within the confines of this event to become the bad guys, which is annoying because essentially they're taking party lines and destroying them. I mean, as someone who grew up as a fan of the X-Men and not a fan of the Avengers, it's annoying, right? It's annoying to see all your favorite characters marginalized and then to see the characters that are just more popular thrown in to be the good guys. Doubly so when you see that Wolverine is thrown in on the Avengers and not the X-Men, which is not right. So, yeah. But, it's really interesting to see the motivation. Also, I will say this issue is far more dense than the other ones. There's not even really a fight, though there is a bit of an action scene in here that plays off of some of the stuff that was supposedly preamble for this. And some of the stuff that they were claiming that didn't really seem to tie in is finally starting to tie in. So, if you're wary about this event, I'd say due to this issue at the very least, when it's all said and done, you should check it out. Alright, Batman Beyond, and awesome. Okay, so the actual Batman Beyond portion of this comic is really amazing. It's kind of a take of an old Spider-Man story talking about the killer, how that relates, and I really don't want to spoil it, but I want to say it's one of those, like, if it was contained by itself, it would be a single issue. Just one of those singular stories that by itself is really interesting. It might actually play into continuity here, though, which could also make for something cool, but really blew me away. The middle part, the Justice League part, is mired in Timmyverse continuity and blah blah blah, and about how Green Lantern ended up getting together who he got together with, and I don't care. That's a story that didn't need to be told. Then the Superman Beyond story is just building more on what's come before and really playing with this idea of Superman in this future where he's more or less replaceable, and kind of seeing kind of the falling parts of Metropolis in more or less utopian future. And it's interesting. In a lot of ways, it seems like Metropolis echoes Gotham a bit more in that respect. But yeah, it's awesome. Alright, Batwoman, I'm honestly going to have to reread it when this arc is done. They've done a particularly terrible job of jumping around. That's like 28 hours earlier, 10 hours earlier, present, before, and it just, I don't know when present is. I don't understand why they're jumping around that much. It doesn't do anything to help the narrative. It just confuses and murks things. I've seen incongruous narratives told, and even time jump ones told in a way that's more interesting, but this fails to make that work. It fails to play that line. The best example of fiction I can think of is The Melancholy of Haruhi. Is that right? Yeah, and that one, every episode kind of jumps around, except when it was re-released in America, it was in chronological order, which killed the show. But that jumps around in a way that kind of foreshadows things and then comes back and then has a big conclusion at the end, given everything, even though that takes place technically in the middle. But you hear about all this stuff earlier, and then you wonder what really went on, they all experience, and they come to, and then you see it, and you see how fantastic it ends up actually being, and it ends up defying all expectations, even in legend, per se, if you will, even in them recalling that past. And here, it's just murky. So, nothing much to say about Buffy, except arc ended well. Cool. So, the best way I can sum up this Captain Atom issue is that it takes an aspect that was brought up with Dr. Manhattan and never played out like this, and it's something that once you see it seems so obvious, but what the ramifications will be, who knows, but it's an interesting concept, and it kind of hurts me because I know that this comic's getting canceled. I forget what issue it gets to run to, but every issue has a definite pause for thought, and yeah. Alright, Chew 27. This one's one for actually worth reviewing for the buy or not buy. If you're even questioning whether you should buy this or not, you're not the biggest Chew fan. You might have already bought this issue as it was long previewed, and they have a little extra in the back. If you're not fanatical about this book, wait, just skip this issue. If nothing else, this issue of Daredevil plays with something very interesting, something more superhero comics should play with but rarely do, and something that kind of annoys me that they don't play with even on a lighter level, and that's the idea of exhaustion, just running out of gas when you're running for too long. Yeah. Interesting to see someone actually get tired. Journey into Mystery, and how many stories can you say you get to follow the double crosser? Yeah, it's just wars are won with words a lot of time. When you pull away from it, you kind of see that it's really interesting to take this book when it's on its own merit. If you're not reading The Punisher, read The Punisher. It sounds weird saying it, but it's true. This is one of the best comics coming out right now, hands down. And this issue just solidifies it. Okay, there's only one way I can really put this. If you're not buying Saga, what's your excuse? This is the best thing happening right now. Yeah, I'd actually like to sit down and talk about some of the themes and stuff going on here, but that would be a whole another shebang. So, yeah. But, wow. And it's $2.99? Buy this. So the Splinter One Shot came out, and it really kind of adds a weird layer of taking an old story and kind of juxtaposing it over kind of general Turtle lore, and it's interesting for that, and also just kind of adding in a couple of different wrinkles. It's really kind of an interesting play. If you're following the series, it's interesting and relevant. If you were just interested in picking this up on its own right, I don't think it would really measure up. It still would be a fun read, don't get me wrong, but so much of it is subtext for other things going on that I don't think you'd really appreciate it to the level that it should be. Though maybe you could find something in it. It is still an interestingly written tale, but it'd be kind of one note. Whereas actually there's a lot of other different layers that it's playing with. So once again, Venom's doing what it does best in being a really dark spin on essentially a kind of quintessential Spider-Man story. And it's in the thick of it, but there's some definite churns that they can't really come back from. It'll be interesting to see how this wraps up. It'll be more interesting to see the outfall. Hopefully they give this title an issue or two to breathe after what's gone on here, because otherwise it's going to feel unnatural. So, yeah, this could be really strong in the ending or not. I mean, this issue's just so much in the middle that it's well paced and everything, but how this one will be received ultimately depends on the next. So yes, you may have noticed there was one comic I did not talk about. I'm going to be doing a separate video for that, and I hope you all enjoyed kind of these quickie reviews. Honestly, I really just this is the problem I have with the stack. Kind of a question I'd like to pose to all of you. Do you really think it's worth going through these every time? I mean, after a while, you know my opinion where I feel about the book more or less, and yeah, I feel sometimes breaking down and then finding an arc or a point and really talking about that is far more interesting than just running through all this every time. I know I've said similar things before and whatnot, but yeah. So, curious to think about what you think and what videos you find interesting to watch within the community. And hopefully, I'll see a lot of you making videos, but for any of you love to hear comments, questions, or whatnot, death threats below, hit that like button, subscribe, I guess, and I'll check y'all later. Oh, and I do want to say, I did notice a slight increase with the subscriptions lately, no small part due to a shout out or two, and I just want to thank anyone who's checked out my videos that really haven't before. Any one more person watching this is just awesome, and more than anything, honestly, I love interacting with people and then seeing what they think about comics. So really, anything you want to say, I'd love to hear it. Peace out.